Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Method in Madness. Today is episode number 29. Uh, Today, we are going to talk about a very, very important topic which, uh, which shapes how we think about our lives, about our future, about prosperity, and the world as a whole. Money. Understanding money, viewing money, knowing money, and building a relationship with money is something that one needs or one must develop from a very young age. Often we hear our parents, talk about how hardworking, people are, and how much hard work goes into earning money, and how important money is, how important it is to save money. Uh, but do we really take our children through literacy, money literacy, or financial literacy? To understand money, to help us view money from a mother's point of view, from a parent's point of view, today we have Shweta Rajpal Kohli. She is the director and head of public policy, Sequoia Capital India. As the head of public policy, Shweta works with the government stakeholders to craft policies that help accelerate the growth momentum of the startup ecosystem in India and Southeast Asia. She advises portfolio companies on managing regularity risks and unlocking new levers of growth. She helps create partnerships that align the vision of founders and governments. Before joining the world of policy, Shweta spent 2 decades as a business journalist and TV news anchor. As the group business editor of India's leading broadcaster, NDTV, she covered global economic events, including G20 meetings, World Bank, IMF meetings, OPEC meetings, World Economic Forums, annual meeting endeavors, and traveled as a part of the Prime Minister's media delegation. Today, Shweta is here with us as a mother of 2 beautiful children. Thank you, Shweta, for joining us and giving us your valuable time from your personal Sunday evening.
It's a real pleasure to be here, Vaishali, especially for a program led by Joy of Drama that has given us so much personal joy as a family, and such a pleasure to be talking on a topic which is very interesting. And I would just mention I'm no expert on this, but yes, we've had some very interesting discussions and happy to take that forward.
Thank you, Shweta. Shweta, the reason we do this program every week is to bring parents, teachers onto one platform where they can look at children and help children grow and develop as confident individuals. And we are looking at practical know-how of people who are with children. They might not be parents, but adults who have been around children for quite some time and who can share what they have actually seen and practiced in their lives. So that's where we thought that maybe we could talk about money, and we should talk about money, because this is one topic that either we are scared to talk to our children about, or we avoid, bringing into the forefront. So just to let our viewers know that Shweta and I are going to talk for the next 45 minutes. Please join our conversation through the chat. And the last 15 minutes, we will be very happy to take some of your questions. So Shweta, let's begin. Let's first talk about, why do we need to talk about money?
Right. I think it's a very, very basic, very fundamental question, but I think one that crosses everyone's mind. And I think it's also very surprising that even though we're seeing a lot around new age education, experiential learning, schools reforming and changing the curriculum, very few schools actually take on the topic of financial literacy early on with children, and very few parents feel the need to discuss money, because either they feel that it's almost a taboo because you don't want to expose children to the topic of money, because maybe money, too much talk of money is a bad thing, too much talk of wealth is a bad thing. At the same time, we're not realizing that children are absorbing and they're picking up. So when they may as well pick up the right right knowledge that they need to know about money. So I think it's really interesting, because as you and I talked about this earlier before we thought of this
Hmm.
webinar, I think it is interesting that now increasingly schools are realizing the need to bring in life skills and knowing about money, knowing everything about money, how money operates, what money is about, what's the cycle like. I think has become even more pertinent in today's age for, I would say, two, three reasons. Number one, the time when you could tangibly see money and physical money, that is now transitioning into a phase where everything is becoming about digital and online. And that's why
Yes.
it's even more important that things that are not tangible and visible to children need to be explained better, because we're moving in a time where it's all very digital, and we're moving to a different world, and our children are digital natives of sorts. I think the second reason really is that children, there's just so much competition and opportunity out there, that you're talking
Hmm.
about today very young entrepreneurs. In the startup ecosystem, for instance, we see very, very young, bright entrepreneurs who are ready to take on the world with brilliant ideas. And if they're not financially literate, or they don't understand the
Hmm.
financial aspect of doing a business, then I think that's the piece that may be missing from their education altogether. So I think, yes, high time we be open to the fact that it's okay to talk about money.
Yes. And when do you think is the right time to introduce money or money related talks with children?
Vaishali, that's an interesting question. I am not sure if there is any set age or any set barrier as such, but I would say start young, because,
Hmm.
we're okay to have lots of conversations with children. This is not something that we need to be afraid of or ashamed of. For instance, there are toys like the cash registers that excite kids a lot. They get very excited, your 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds, when they're having to deal with paper money. When you play games like
Hmm.
Monopoly, you're ultimately teaching them the value of money, what money can buy. Or a game like Life, those
Hmm.
are all concepts that help you understand that money will play a role in your life. And it's even more important to understand that money is important to do certain activities, and at the same time help them understand that money is not everything, or that money should not come in the way of relationships, or that money
Hmm.
is something that needs to also be shared. Money that is also something that needs to be saved. So the power of giving away money, the power of saving money, and slightly older kids, the power of investing money. So I think it's very important that, depending on the age appropriateness of the conversation, we start early. And we start as early as playing games that would help them understand, allowing them toys that would help them understand, but at the same time being very careful about how we're conveying that message. Because very often, I think there is danger of going into two extremes. One, excessively talking about money can make children very obsessed about money, and they may start. I mean,
Hmm.
we know there are households where children will start doing things to earn money very early in life, and that's not the kind of value system you want to inculcate in them, that everything is about money. At the
Hmm.
same time, you also don't want to go to the other extreme where you say, oh my god, anything to do with money, we're not going to let you be involved in that conversation. So if there is loose change to be got from a shop, or if there is a small transaction that is to be done, is it okay to hand over that money to children to go ahead and try out that transaction on their own? So I think it's that delicate balance that we have to strike. But to answer your question in a brief way, I think no harm starting early, and kids love it, because kids feel empowered, kids feel they
Hmm.
are part of decision making, and it's very important for them to feel like they're part of that entire decision making process, or they are able to understand something which is very adult like otherwise.
In your experience as a mother, how do you explore this area of bringing in budgeting or maybe planning something which has a monetary repercussion? How do you bring that into play with your children?
It's an interesting question, Vaishali, because you think about it a lot. A lot of times you do things organically without thinking that you're doing it for a reason, but then you realize that
Hmm.
it does have a lot of impact on children. So I think the one thing that we've tried to instill a lot in children is about nothing comes for free. So there is a value of hard work, and then the reward in the end can be money or monetary related, or something that you have earned for yourself. But the concept of earning is very important
Hmm.
to have brought in early in life with children. And a lot of people would say, you take the fun out of anything. So do you have to earn your screen time? Yes. Do you have to earn the fact that you want an extra chocolate in that month? Yes. So I think every family has their own rules, and there is no right or wrong. And I must admit that I'm not saying I'm the perfect parent, or that my children are perfectly well disciplined in that sense. But I think there are some experiments that we've tried as a family that have worked well, which I can, for instance, share with
Sure.
everybody. I think, for instance, when you restrict things, so my children would love, like most children would do, they love the concept of having, wafers or chips. Now, we feel that's unhealthy and that's not something that you want to give to children. But at the same time, 100% denying it also creates this sort of attraction that makes you want to have it more. So, for instance, we've set a system where we say, okay, you're allowed a packet of chips or wafers or nachos or whatever you want, one of those packaged things, once a month. Now, the good thing is that the minute you relate it with both money and you delay gratification and you put a system to it, there is so much excitement around it. And we didn't realize this was an experiment we tried, and it really worked beautifully because children understood that there isn't free money available out there to go buy tons of packaged wafers and chips all the time for children, because you help them understand that there is limited amount of anything that can come in the house. Second thing is there's delayed gratification, so they understand the concept of okay. And then the important thing is that when we allow that once a month allowance, it is something that we allow them to buy of their own. So the money is given for them to go and purchase it, and the excitement for them to be able to do that, I think, is something that is a different high. And they wait for that. Is it the next month? Oh, can I get my pack of chips now? And can you give me my 10 rupees to go buy it on my own? So I think that's the kind of small changes that work well. I think the other thing that I read once, and I didn't implement it to the T, but would love to at some point, is that very often we do piggy banks for kids, and we all like to give especially coins to kids to save as piggy banks, and they love the concept that they have this big jar and it's heavy and it's nice and it's growing. So I think that's something that most families do, but I think somewhere that concept is going away, and I think we must continue the concept of piggy banks. But I read somewhere, which I thought was very beautiful, that instead of having the opaque boxes as piggy banks, have transparent jars, and if possible, don't have one but have 3, because in on each of these you could mark them as one which is there for saving, one which is there for spending, and the other third which is there for giving. And I think investing comes much later for them. But if you can help them understand that money has 3 aspects, there is that you have to save money. So supposing you've earned 500 rupees from a relative on a birthday, and you rightfully want to keep that money with you. So how do you divide that money? So then you can maybe say, okay, I will give you 100, 5 notes of 100, and you give me the 500, and let's see how you divide it in your 3 jars. And you want to spend some part of that money because it's 500 rupees. Maybe you want to spend 100 rupees to get something you really like. Maybe you want to keep 20, 30 to give away, or buy something for an underprivileged child, and maybe help buy him an ice cream, because that's important. So you help understand the concept of giving very early in life, and at the same time saving, because if they spend the entire 500, they're left with nothing. So do you want to save up for something really big? So I thought that concept was really good. I didn't follow it to the T, but I think it's something that is that's interesting, and we can explore with our children as we help them understand money.
Yes, I think this is a good concept. I remember when I was growing up, we had piggy banks, which were made of earth, like clay. So they were earthen pots where we would put in our coins. And then it was a great, euphoric moment when we would break it every, pre-Diwali and collect the coins and count them. I think it is, if this can be made into kind of a ritual, then it might just be more dramatic for children. What do you think about that? Should we have money related or rituals which kind of help children understand and develop a relationship with money which is healthy?
Absolutely, Vaishali, nothing wrong in that, because I think we just feel scared that we shouldn't give them access to money. And the other thing is, we just start suddenly giving allowances and pocket money, and okay, this is something that you should get because you've reached a certain age, and then suddenly introduce the concept of money that they can't handle. But like what you're explaining, a ritual like this, to me, the one thing though that I do think about a lot is that probably in our growing up, years or even earlier, there was a lot of value attached to those coins in the earthen pot, and the fact that you could break it, and when you collect that, you go and you're able to purchase something. I think it's very important that we maintain that ritual, because what has happened now is that however many coins you put in, you're probably not getting enough money to be able to buy a toy of their liking, because given inflation,
Yes.
the kind of indexing we're seeing, things are way more expensive, and our children are way more privileged. Let's accept that. We can't take away from the fact that they are more privileged. They do get more expensive toys. They are used to, we're used to spending on them a lot more. So, but how do you still help them be excited about that earthen pot that they break every year and collect the money? I think that's the kind of ritual we have to continue, and the tradition we have to continue with, because even if that adds up to something that doesn't help them buy that big toy, it should be able to help them buy that one much desired chocolate, or that much desired thing that they are excited about. And it doesn't always have to be the value of the money. It has to be, the tradition has to be linked with something that's got them going. So I think very important that small, because very often we're confusing privilege and entitlement and money, and these, we can talk
Yes.
about that later, but
Yes.
these concepts get muddled up. But how do you bring in that value system as you're also, continuing with those traditions?
No, the other thing is the credit card generation that we are in right now. I mean, definitely the money is nowhere to be seen right now. There is no hard cash that we see anymore, apart from the tenors and the 20 rupee notes that go around the house. We don't see money. The other thing is credit card, and I have noticed college students, enjoy their time in college, not just with the pocket money that they get, but also on credit. There are lots of apps, and some apps have very weird names. Like there's an app. I would not like to name that app, but it has the word lazy in it.
Yeah,
So I'm not too sure how to kind of help our teenagers
sure.
understand the whole concept of credit and debt. Uh, if you can throw some light on that, how do you see debt, and how healthy or unhealthy it is?
So I think, again, it's an interesting concept, because debt is not a bad thing, but as long as you're able to understand how to service your debt and how to make good your debt, I think that those are important concepts that teenagers need to understand. Also, I think in India, while we do use credit cards and the penetration is going up, the usage of credit cards in India is very different from the way it is in the Western world, where people are genuinely taking credit, whereas here a credit card is used more as convenience, as a replacement of money, and you'd probably have that money in your bank, but you just use it as a convenient tool to pay up, and then you're probably going to make good your credit card. You'll make your bill payments on time and all of that. So I think inherently we're not a society in India, at least, that has been used to a lot of debt. But at the same time, I think one point that you made very important, which is important for teenagers, is that we're living in a different generation where money has become intangible completely. So our generation does not see enough physical money. They do not see enough notes being exchanged, enough coins being exchanged. It's all done at the click of a button. It's just a swipe and your game has been bought. It's just an OTP entered, and Amazon will deliver everything at your doorstep. And that's in some ways eroding the value of money in the minds of the younger generation, because it's too easy. Earlier you would have to make the effort. You have to take out money from your wallet, and there's limited amount in the wallet, or you would have to go to the ATM to withdraw money. Now you're not even doing that. Even earlier, you had to go to the bank to get money. So
Yes.
there was a certain amount of effort that was going in to get the physical paper money, and that's something that people grew up seeing. Now suddenly everything's at the click of a button. Now, how do you educate youngsters? And I think it's very, very important, because one mistake that we see parents making very often is the fact that credit card details are entered into laptops and iPads and tablets, and anytime they want to buy a game, they just have to click a button and it's all done. So I think where we need to say, okay, this is the value of money. Would you give unlimited money? Equate this with the credit creditor limit on your credit card. Equate this with, would you ever hand over 50,000 rupees to a teenager and say, go buy what you want to? You would probably not do that. So I think we need to ourselves understand that just because it's a credit card or it's intangible doesn't mean that you can give unlimited access to children. And I think it's very interesting because I have a very, very sweet story around, my son when he was probably 4 years old, and we had to go to a restaurant. You time and again try and help children understand that
Hmm. Hmm.
money is important, or you can't eat out every day because it's expensive, or you can't order in every day because it's expensive. So we're members of the Friends Club, and when they go to the club, they also have their cards, and they can use their membership card to pay up for, say, the cheese balls that they eat there, or for ice
Hmm.
cream. And for some reason, they got into that impression that because they're not using paper money, that comes for free. And so my son, once when we were coming back home from one of his classes or something like that, I can't recall, but he said, oh, let's order food. I said, no, we ordered in just 2 days ago, and we shouldn't waste so much money, we won't order in. So he very sweetly
Hmm.
said, okay, then to save your money, why don't we get it from the club, because that is free. So it just hit me suddenly that just because you're not using paper money, for a
Yes.
5-year-old, the concept is that food from the club comes for free. And just
Hmm.
imagine, now we're living in a Zomato world, we're living in a Paytm world where everything is at the click of a button. So how much harder it is for kids to fathom that everything is ultimately paid for, and there is
Hmm.
someone who will pay that bill, because just because it's not cash on delivery doesn't mean it's free. So I think helping kids very young understand that is important, because, for instance, ever since the lockdown has happened, and we're doing all our purchases of groceries and everything on Amazon.
Everything on. Yes.
No, so they are seeing boxes after boxes after boxes being delivered at home, and that's creating a very, very different culture and mindset for them, that, oh, it's very easy to order stuff in, because ultimately you
Hmm.
just go to Amazon, or they very often go to Amazon and say, oh, we've put that in your cart. So one thing that I've trained them to do is check the amount of what you want me to buy, and then we decide how you're going to earn it. So I do allow them to use the laptop and add something that they really want to the cart. But then when they add it to the cart, they have to first see the value of it. So for instance, the thumb rule that I have is that nothing, and obviously it can vary from household to household, but nothing
Hmm.
that exceeds 1,000 rupees. So it has to be 400, 500 rupees that ever you want to purchase, and you have to have a reason to purchase it, and then you have to earn it with a certain way. So okay, if you're learning to solve the Rubik's cube, then once you've done it X number of times, or in this much time, I may be able to buy you something which is lying in the wish list or in the cart, but it cannot exceed that certain bracket. You have
Hmm.
spent time earning that thing that you so desire. But it's hard, Vaishali. It's hard because they're seeing us make purchases with such ease that the minute
Hmm.
you're restricting it to them, they don't understand the dichotomy, because they're like, you're suddenly purchasing things after things, and there are Amazon boxes coming home, and so much is coming. So why are you restricting us? So,
Hmm.
but I think we have to have these conversations more often. We have to be able to help them understand that way more than what the previous generation was made to understand. Exactly for the reason that I'm saying, that they will lose the value of money because it's so intangible in today's times.
Uh, Shweta, let's go back to our topic of privilege. And I think privilege is something which, fortunately, some of us notice and some don't. And the other thing is that because we are always, thankfully, more aware and more conscious than our previous generation, maybe we can look at it in a different way. How do you look at privilege and responsibility?
Right.
Because many a times, privileged children or children who have seen a lot of abundance since the beginning, are taken for granted to be not associated, I mean, not to be not
Privilege means they're spoiled kids, or they're
yeah, they're
brats.
spoiled or brats. Yeah, I mean, this equation that is developed over the years, of privilege, spoiled, and then lot of money, spendthrift, things like that. How do you look at these words? How should we look at these words?
I
and
think
respect.
it's
Yeah.
something we really need to talk about, Vaishali, because this is in fact something that I discussed with someone who I treat as a guru on parenting, Navdeep Parmar, who I accidentally met on a flight once from Delhi to Cochin, and
Mm.
we both were sitting next to each other, and we started talking about parenting and money and lots of other things. And I think I've since then we've been friends, and we've followed up with each other a lot. And she explained to me a concept which has really stayed with me, which is around not punishing our children for the privilege that they have. And I'll
Mm.
just go a little deeper, if you allow me, to explain this
Sure,
concept,
sure.
because what is happening a lot is that we're all paranoid as parents that I think our children are too privileged, and with the privilege will come a value system that we don't want to give them. We definitely want them to have a better value system, and we, as you rightly said, we just equate privilege with a bad value system, that just
Mm.
because they are doing 3 foreign holidays in a year, they're spoiled, or they're too entitled, or they're too privileged, or just because they're living in fancier homes, or they have cars, or they have domestic help available. And very often we also very wrongly approach the subject with our children, because we're constantly putting it in their heads that, oh, you have no idea how our life was, or the hard work that we did, or the struggle that
Yes.
we did. I also see a lot of parents going to the extreme of saying, we want them to understand the value of money, so I will want them to lead my life. And you know what? I think my advice to those parents is to stop, because you cannot go back in time, and you cannot expect your children to lead your life, because they are growing up in different times. Their privileges are different, and don't punish them for those privileges, because those privileges have come because of certain reasons. Those privileges have come because of a certain gap in time that has come, and let's
Mm.
adjust to the current times and give them the value system so that they don't make privilege an entitlement. And I think in
Mm.
between that road of privilege and entitlement comes the value system. So going back to Navdeep Parmar, who I mentioned, she was someone who's been in the Indian Air Force, and given the fact that she has been in the air, she was in the Air Force, and her husband's also a pilot with the Air Force. They have certain privileges, and one of those privileges was that they would fly a business class in Air India. And when I met them, I remember that I was coming back from an official engagement, and I was extremely tired. I was on this flight, and I was, Air India offered me at the counter during check-in that, with just like a minimal amount, you will be able to upgrade yourself to business. Would you like to? And I was extremely tired, and I said, you know what? I think this is something I want to give to myself. So on my personal account, I'm going to just upgrade and have a very good sleep for 4 hours, because it's a long flight, Delhi to Cochin, and let me do that. And
Mm.
she and I just shared I mean, we were next to each other on the aircraft, and of course, I didn't sleep a wink because we talked. And she explained this concept that if my children are privileged about certain thing, I won't take that privilege away from them, because you
Mm.
know how can I tell them that no, you have to fly economy now, because I want you to learn the value of economy class and not of business class. If there are certain privileges that are coming your way because of either the hard work or the struggle that you've gone through as parents, or because of whatever reason, let them enjoy that privilege, but at the same time teach them the value system that with privilege comes responsibility. With
Mm.
privilege comes the responsibility of giving back to society. With privilege, it's important to understand. And again, here I see very often parents constantly rubbing it in. Oh, you're leaving food at the table. There are children on the street who don't
Yes,
have food to eat.
yes.
And stop doing that. I think if we say it 20 times a day, children get sick of it, because they're like, enough of this. It's not our fault that we have food at the table. Can you stop telling us that 24 times a day? I think the better way to help them understand is to be good role models. And here I'd like to cite an example of a very small step that my husband took during the coronavirus, and which is that he said, you know what, I don't know if I can do too much, but I would like to definitely feed the poor and hungry and the homeless during COVID. And we used to every evening prepare about 40 meals and go drive and just go near our house, and you would see so many people on the street who were homeless and hungry, and we would just distribute that. Now we realized that this is something that we wanted our kids to know about, and we would take the kids sometimes and have them also be part of this exercise. We talked about it and we said, oh, this is great because they're able to see that value system, they're able to see why we're doing this. But again, if we force them to come with us every single day to do that, then it would not remain a value that they are imbibing. Then it would become, almost like a diktat, which would then be like,
Yes.
okay, every day you want us to see the poor and hungry. How much are you drilling us that there are poor and hungry, and we live in a privileged colony, and we are privileged? So I think striking that right balance between being good role models, where you are able to help them understand that giving is important, that privilege has to come with responsibility, that you have to be able to share and give back to society is important. But if we overdo it and overemphasize it and constantly literally punish them for the privilege that they have, that's not going to go down well, because somewhere they're going to push back and stop valuing it, because it is not their fault that they have that privilege. Secondly, parents have to stop feeling guilty about it. I've heard so many parents saying, oh my God, I'm not going to take this trip overseas because my children are spoiled. You know what? You've worked hard, or you, for whatever reason, deserve that privilege for yourself and for your children. Give it to them. But with that, the minute you're constantly working on the values, you're going to be okay. So stop obsessing about too much privilege.
So when we're talking about values and values related to money and wealth that you possess, how do you introduce these concepts to children? How do you start your conversations around this? I mean, do you look for occasions, or do you create occasions to talk about these things?
Bit of both. And I would add a third, which is role modeling. So I think children would pick up from what you do. So it's all about how you treat money. What's your relationship with money? Are you very casual about money? It's about small things. So if a child breaks a toy and he's wailing, crying, and he's, saying, oh my God, and if immediately a parent, because your heart is breaking to see your child cry in that manner, you would say, don't worry, I'll get you another one. It's just a toy. That minute, we're setting something in the child's mind that it's okay and you'll get another one quickly. And we're probably doing it for the right reasons. We're well intended. We just want the child to stop crying and saying, oh, it's just a toy, you'll get another one. But I think even in that time, the messaging that we're giving to the child saying, oh, it may be hard to get another one, or it's going to be, maybe expensive, but we'll see how we can help you get another one, or let's work out a plan. And we know you're feeling very bad about that toy, breaking, and we know it was your favorite toy, but let's see how we can think about, think of a plan to get it back. So I think it's very hard because it doesn't instantly come, and very often we all make mistakes around it, and because we just want to at that moment comfort the child. But I think that messaging in our everyday conversation, similarly the way we're treating money every single day, if we're very casual about, oh, this doesn't matter, oh, it's just this much amount, we can deal with it. So I think that. Secondly, when we're working hard and earning them the holidays, earning them the outside meals, ordering in food at home, like I said, it doesn't have to be in your face and every single time, because then children don't do it. If you're constantly telling them, oh, I worked hard for so many days, that's why you can afford this holiday, or but at the same time, subtle messaging around, when my children tell me that, oh, mama, can you stop working, because and I have to tell them, a lot of the privileges that you're getting is because I'm working. So helping them understand that hard work results in money, results in privileges. I think that connection to them, so you create occasions to tell them that, you help them understand that with your own stories and how you went about it. I think children love to hear stories around how much something cost in their times or their grandparents' time. Those are kind of fun stories for them, that, oh, did you know that what it cost to buy an apple during our time, or what my earning, which may be harder for younger kids, but once the kids are older, show them your first salary slip and say, you know what, this is how much I used to earn, but we used to feed a family with that much in those times. So I think those kind of occasions and conversations are always very good to have with children, because they enjoy it. They enjoy going back in time and listening to our stories. And I think it's a mix of creating occasions and doing it on a day-to-day basis and role modeling. So it has to be very organic.
So have you ever tried creating an occasion or doing a role play with your children to bring in this concept of planning and budgeting and maybe spending?
Yes, so I remember one such incident where I don't know if it was an entire exercise around planning and budgeting, but kids were, this was right at the start of the lockdown, where kids were very excited about, one day I said, okay, we can't go out, but let's have a party at home. And we said, okay, why don't you both, my daughter is 10 and my son is 6 years old now, and we said, okay, you both plan a party and pretend that you are the host, and you have to do everything around the party, and whatever we come and buy at the party, like you're the restaurant owners or the managers, and we're going to have to pay you to buy that. So I think that was very exciting for them to understand the concept of money. So we let them be for about 2 hours where they did all the planning. So they went to the kitchen, they prepared some treats, they put out invitation cards and sent us invites to come to the party. But they were a little confused that, oh, we're inviting you to the party, but you have to pay for your stuff. But we said fine. So every time we asked for say a fresh lime soda, we said you write out the charge for everything. So they had a menu prepared where it was 10 rupees and 20 rupees, and we had the change. So it was great fun because for them, they were in control, and children love being in control. They love being decision makers, and they are the ones who are deciding things. So they had that control with them. The fact that they were earning money for their hard work was a very good exercise for them to understand that, we've worked hard to prepare certain treats or to even organize them. It doesn't mean that they have to sit and cook everything themselves, but they've organized it, and they're earning money for it. And what they're earning is at the end of the day. So I think that was one, I think, very small, effortless thing, but it really stayed with the kids, and they keep saying, oh, let's do that party thing again. I think one other thing that I feel worked very well for my daughter last year was around Diwali Mela, where at the club there was a Diwali a fair, a carnival, and they had put stalls, and the kids could own the stalls. And I think those are times when they again understand the value of how do you earn money and how do you make up for the money. So we obviously set up a stall of games for the kids, but they had done everything themselves, and everything that they were earning from the games was sort of their earning. But to help them understand, I made sure that everything that you bought to give away as gifts for the games, you have to subtract from it, because not all of it is your earning. There was a certain expense that went into it. So ultimately helping them understand profit and loss with something as small as, say, a carnival stall that they take up. But very important that most parents would say, oh, you worked hard, you just take the full amount because this is your hard. So they suddenly forget that, something went into this, and let's subtract that, because ultimately the profit that I'm making has to be, you have to take the expenses out of the earnings to be able to get the profit. So, you're just 7, 8, but you can get that concept so easily if you're putting up something like this.
Many a times parents tell their children that, okay, you don't have to bother about that. You don't have to bother about the money. That'll be taken care of. I think it's good at times to not bog your children with any kind of financial setback or whatever you are into. But how honest should a parent be with his or her child, especially a 10 plus children, because nowadays teenage starts at 11, I guess. So I think this is something that all parents would like to understand and know when to share and be honest about your financial health, your parental.
I think it's very, very hard, Vaishali, for parents, especially because they're working so hard for children. And, very often we do send the wrong message, and all of us do it in terms of, okay, we'll handle this. You just focus on your studies, or you just focus on doing that, and we will bring that. So I also think that different families have to set different priorities on spending and make that very clear to children that, how do you do a budgeting exercise? How do you make decisions on what you choose to spend your finances on? And I think there is unlimited of everything is obviously not the kind of concept that you want children to grow up because ultimately the fact that they have to work hard to be able to make their own living, however privileged you are, is a concept that every household has to instill. Never mind the wealth, never mind the privilege, never mind what status or social standing you're in. So I think most parents do get it, but you have to probably help them understand. Like, for instance, the one thing that children in my house definitely know is that I don't get cut corners when it comes to their extracurricular classes or their books, because that's something that I spend on. So my son would be looking at Amazon and would try to pick a toy, and he knows he's not getting it. But the minute he'll pick on a book, he knows somewhere it's easier to get mama to say okay, because it's a book, I will order it in a second. So I think I don't know if that's a wrong message too, because ultimately you're confusing the kids. You're saying, okay, money is available for books, but it's not available for toys. So there is no right or wrong, and how do you adjust that? But I think it's also important for parents to help children understand what their financial priorities are, because every household will have a different spending pattern and will have different spending criteria. And what is it that you aspire for? What is it that you spend more on? What is it that you want your children to aspire for and work hard towards? So I think that is one thing. The other aspect that you talked about on budgeting, I think very often it's interesting if you let kids be the decision makers on, we have limited amount of money, what do you think we should do with this? Would you like to maybe a 3-day holiday in an overseas location versus a 15-day holiday in a hill station in India? And allow them to make that choice, sometimes, where they understand the value of money instantly, and they're like, you know what, there isn't unlimited of this. We have to make our choices, and even though the choices that we're presenting are too privileged choices, or too the fact that there is limited of everything, and that decision making and choice has to be made ultimately, and it helps children understand that parents are also making these choices every day and these decisions every day, and they're not easy to come by. So I think involving children in that kind of decision making, at the same time not let them be the decision makers for everything, because sometimes that I also feel parents are going down the path of children decide everything. I think that's dangerous too, because then they get too much of this, everything is a delicate balance. Yes, you want them to be decision makers, but not that they are the rulers of the household, and if they have said something, it'll be done. Or if my child wants this car is going to come. Or if my child wants to go on this holiday, we will take him on this holiday because my child has uttered the word, say, X, or any country they want to go to. So I think that we have to be very mindful of. So while we help them become part of decision making in crucial decisions, the choices are limited, and the choices are given by the parents, where they are giving them the options, and then you're maybe picking from those, but not saying our decisions are totally dependent on what you want to do, because that gives a sense of, oh, my parents allowed me everything, and then suddenly it hits them when they have to do it themselves, because they simply cannot afford it, or it'll take them a long time to get to that level. So
yeah, oh my God, it's already 7:42, and I think it's time to take questions now. So Mitali Bhattacharya is asking a question. Okay, she has a question about Orthodox parents. What about Orthodox parents and grandparents? What about kids in joint families? Do you think children would be allowed to get this freedom? I mean, this is again family to family, and probably educating parents in this regard is also important. How do you think we can help parents understand this concept? Because even as adults, we also at times, avoid looking at money and proper using of money, or maintenance of money. So do you think parents can come together? Maybe some forums can be formed. How do you think? How can you? Any suggestions that can help parents who have?
I think it's a very important question around Orthodox and joint families, and I'm not sure I understood the question properly, but I think it's interesting to answer that, because very often money as a topic through generations really acquires a different meaning, because I think we do need to understand that the way our grandparents saw money versus the way our parents saw money versus the way we're spending money, there's already a huge generational shift in A, spending patterns, B, spending priorities. And very often the older generation just doesn't get it. They're like, oh my God, you're going out so often and spending money. You know what? It's cheaper to eat at home. Why don't you do that? And I think when we disregard those emotions and those feelings, because I'm not assuming that the struggle has lessened over the generations, but there is a difference in spending pattern over generations. And I think it's very important that we continue to respect what a grandparent is saying in the house for our children to listen, because they are listening. For instance, my mother-in-law, who lives with us, is very particular about telling children that they should not leave food on their plate. And probably I realized that I was not that particular about it, because we grew up in a concept that, oh, if you're too stuffed, then don't push food down your throat, and it's okay to leave it on the plate. But my mother-in-law grew up with a concept that it's absolutely not okay to leave a morsel on the plate. And then she has inculcated in the kids very clearly that, take more servings, but just take as much as you can eat. And then she definitely does say, oh, there are so many people out there who are not getting food, don't waste food. And ultimately, even if the food is getting wasted in the kitchen, the fact that they have not wasted food is, and I thought about it and I said, you know what, let her instill that value in the kids, because it's very important that they are getting that value from a grandparent and not always from a parent, because parents are anyway directing so much at kids. So I do think that, because there are sometimes families where there are 3 generations and there is just so much difference in the way each generation has understood and spent money and valued money, it's very important that we create that balance and understand the joint family system, and appreciate that not everybody would have the same value around money as not every generation would have it. At the same time, like I said, we can't make it too often. The minute you're constantly kids, they're not going to like it, because they will say, again, back to the point that I made earlier, you can't constantly nag them about the fact that they're privileged, because that's something you've given them, and then you nag them over it. So it confuses the children.
Yes, I think nagging on any topic is kind of puts the child off the topic, and the child does not want to go back and discuss and go back into that talk or that topic anymore. Dr. Ashish Ghosh is here. Dr. Ashish Ghosh is asking, responsible parenting creates values, but there is a value system created by the commercial world. How to reconcile the two?
Again, very pertinent in today's time, where commercialization is in your face, and it's just so much harder to create a value system at a time when there is a problem of plenty out there. We're living in a materialism world. We're living in a world where there is entitlement. There is so much that children are getting. But I think even more important to create those values then in children, because we just forget how much commercialization has happened over everything. It's just that children are being fed ads, children are being said, there's so much marketing of everything out there. And in this day and age, where when you're starting anything on YouTube, there are 20 ads coming your way when you're doing so. I think we're living in a world where which is getting increasingly commercialized. You also have to work harder to instill the value system. And because children are used to that world, when you're instilling it, it has to be done in a very delicate and balanced way. So it is harder. There is a dichotomy out there.
Yeah. Vishakha is asking, how do we introduce the concept of charity to children? I think the episode that you shared with us, where you had taken your children out while you were giving out food packets, that could be one. Anything else? Like, do we have to wait for adversity to strike to do charity, or shall we make it as a part of our daily routine or our routine in some way?
So Vaishali, we have to introduce the concept of charity to children way earlier than what we think we do, because some of it is in our culture. Whichever religion we practice, there is an element of charity and giving back that every culture and religion will have. And I think the fact that we're going away from traditions is a worrying thought, because somewhere we don't realize that every tradition had brought in an element of something that's important for children to learn. So while it's okay, there are families that believe they're more modern, they don't want to follow traditions, they don't want to follow, then they have to have their way of giving back. And there are families who would say go and celebrate birthdays at an orphanage, and help children realize they want to do that. It works for some. There are some who say no, we just want our children to enjoy that birthday. We don't want to constantly drill it in, and that can be done on another occasion. We don't want to constantly remind them even on their birthday that this is important. But whichever format you choose, whichever way you choose, I think giving back is a concept they need to understand. But yet, like I said, role modeling will work way better than forcing them into it, because they have to grow up knowing it's important, and that their parents did it too. So whether it's charity in any small form, whether it is giving in any way, here I would like to also reflect on a question that I was asked long back, and I think we've all discussed that. How do you deal with beggars on the road? And very often children find it very unnerving when there is beggars on the road constantly knocking your window panes and asking for money. And there was a time when my son used to feel very hassled, and he would say, "Mama, give them money right now," and he would feel very pained to see people who don't have money and are asking for money. And I think as a principle, we decided that we're not going to give money. And why we decided that, and again, to each his own, everybody has a different thought around so again, we tried to explain to them that we will give, but we will give to the real needy. Is the person handicapped and they cannot work, and yes, then we're going to open our purse and immediately help them. But are we going to give it to every beggar on the street? Maybe not, because then you're encouraging begging, and why that's not okay, because it's a cycle, and how begging is a problem. So charity can come in the form of giving someone something on the street, to making a religion or an occasion a moment to give back to the society, to also saying that, like I said, that, we just decided to initiate something which we did for a very long period of time every single day. So children used to, that every single day someone in the household, most often my husband, that where's dad? He's gone to feed the poor. So whether they have gone, only 4 times out of the 100 times that we went, but they saw that happen, and the fact that they were influenced by it, and the fact that it was it was almost a tradition daily in our house for many months. It was something that influenced them somewhere. And I think it's something that people remember. Yes. Also, I think talking about good acts of charity, helping children read stories around charity, I think those are subtle ways in which you can definitely instill it in them. And like I keep saying, without overdoing it, because the minute you push it, certainly, then they suddenly are like, okay, we know it. Stop telling us every day about the fact that, oh, you're so lucky, oh, you have so much, and oh, look at that poor child on the street. Oh, so I think we need to keep doing our charity in our own way, involving them sometimes, maybe making a tradition or a ritual around it, and subtle messaging, keep doing it.
Shweta, I think we are almost at the end of our conversation. I'll just like to ask you one question, which keeps coming to my mind. You had mentioned this also, very subtly. It came in guilt, guilt that parents go through when they're not able to, either meet, the demands that children make. How does the parent deal with that guilt, and how to deal with demands that children make, which might not be, all right to meet at that moment?
Yeah, I think, as I've been saying, even more pertinent in today's times, because the kind of demands have shifted. Earlier we used to talk about peer pressure and children wanting fancy news. Now it's all about, I want to buy that video game and it's so easy, and mom, please get it, or dad, come on, just give me your credit card, or just one game, or just that one little additional, I don't even know what all kids need for their video gaming and all that they keep asking and demanding these days. So the demands have changed. They sound more harmless, but I do think that both in terms of discipline and in terms of spending money, it's okay to put your foot down and say no, this much and no more. Because, while you feel very guilty at this point in time, and at that moment you feel like, oh my God, you're spending so much on yourself, or you're doing this and you can't do this much for your child. I think helping them understand that there will be a line drawn, and certain cost attached to it is going to be extremely important as a value system to create in them right at the start and consistently. The other problem that very often parents make is that they're not consistent in their messaging. And the minute you're not consistent, that's when conflict begins. You have to understand that if there is consistent messaging that, okay, for your next video game, you have to work hard and this is how you earn it. So you are going to give in and you're going to give them certain things. You will fulfill certain demands. But if you have laid down conditions on fulfilling that demand and you've consistently followed it through every time, then the conflict between the parent and the child is much lesser than what it would be if, say, for instance, once you say, okay, fine, I am busy with something, come bring your thing, I will give you this. And then the next time you're suddenly like, oh, you're asking me too much. And so, we all in our busy lives that we lead, very often we are not consistent with our messaging, especially around money, especially around meeting demands. So I think my advice there is, number one, throw the guilt in the bin, because children are way more resilient than we think they are. And even though they're throwing a complete tantrum, and they understand, they really understand, and they will continue to throw the tantrum, but ultimately they get it, that there will be restrictions on things they can get to. Definitely attach a value of hard work to whatever demands you fulfill, because that's, whether it's money or things, anything material, there has to be hard work associated with it. So have you done your chores? Have you done XYZ, whatever each household wants to put in? I think it's important that you have sort of helped them understand that nothing comes for free. It has to be earned. There is a certain value to it. There's certain hard work that needs to go into earning that thing. So I think that's the other concept, and consistency, as I said. Without consistency, you're just setting up an entire foundation for conflict, which will never be resolved. And I think very often I've heard parents turn around and say, you know what, I just feel like an ATM. The only relationship my child has with me is that of money.
Yes, many parents say that. Yeah,
they just want to come to me and they only ask me for money. I've also seen the opposite end, where teenagers who had very, very conflicting relationships with their parents have turned around and said, my parent is constantly telling me, oh, I do this for you. Oh, I bought you this. Isn't it their duty? Why are they constantly telling us that, I pay for your education. I've paid for this. I've paid for that. I mean, if they're not supposed to pay, do they expect that at 16, we're going to go out and pay earn our own money? So I think both sides are right. Parents hate being treated as just money machines out there simply to just pay for their child's needs, and the demands keep going up as they grow older, because things change, their demands change. So how do you make sure that you have right from the start built that foundation, that the relationship is not just only about money, and you've helped them understand what demands will be met and what demands won't be met, what demands will be met under certain conditions and what demands will not. And if you've had that consistency in messaging right from when they've been younger, the problems in teenage years or till they start earning will be lesser, because they will get it, that some things will come their way, some things won't come their way, and some things will come with riders. So there is that clear categorization. And I think also children are right in their way, because sometimes we just are constantly snubbing them, constantly reminding them that, oh, we're doing you this favor. The minute we make our relationship about money with them, and the minute we start saying, we're paying for this and we're paying for that, and you're being able to do this because who's paid you for it, or also associate punishment, reward and punishment always with monetary things, I think that's when we're setting ourselves up for, okay, you're not going to do this, so you're not getting this. So everything is a materialistic. How about saying, I'm not speaking to you today, So let there be an emotional reward and punishment rather than a
Punishment.
material reward and punishment. Because the minute it's a material reward and punishment, their relationship with you has become material. And you've set that up. So initially you do it, and then you later say, why is the relationship so material? So I think somewhere we also need to put the value of emotions and other things way above materialism, because while at some level I'm contradicting myself, because at one level I'm also saying that, say you have to work hard and you do this and you get this. So you are doing a cause and effect between materialistic things. But the minute it is everything about the relationship is a cause and effect, and everything about materialism is cause and effect, then you've lost your child to the fact that the child has to just get your attention to get materialistic things. So I think very hard. Parenting is not easy, Vaishali, and we all learn along the way. There are no rights and wrongs, and we all make mistakes, and we all learn as we move along.
That's how we learn, right? And I think this last point that you made was so important. I think striking a balance between material punishment or whatever, emotional and material aspects of punishment and rewards should be drawn out by the parent and followed consistently. I think consistency in discipline and relationship with money and children is extremely important for every parent to have a healthy and a wealthy life. So thank you so much, Shweta, for giving us your time, and thank you everybody who's watched us today. Please, if you've liked our program, please hit the like button and please subscribe to our channel, because we keep doing these webinars every week to educate each other. Thank you so much, Shweta. Have a good night.
Thank you, Vaishali. It was great fun to be part of this session.
Pleasure. Thank you. Good night to everybody.